Gun Galleria here. Today we have with us a French Moss 36, sometimes also called the Moss 1936. This was the bolt-action rifle that France used during World War II. Now, obviously, the 36 designation is to do with the year. So this was the design of 1936. It's a nice, interesting design. You know, this particular one that I have here is a Arsenal refinished one after the war. So these were Parkerized, wood was stripped or replaced with new stocks. This very well could be a new stock based upon the condition of it and the look of it. So let me show you that it is in fact empty. Now, when you're looking at a Moss 36, a couple of things to note. If it's a pre-war or non-refinished, re-arsenaled one, the bolt will be able to go forward without having to either load it or depress the follower. So this keeps that from going forward. That is something you see on the post-war refinishes or post-war issues. Another thing to note is that when you do see some of these re-arsenaled ones, your numbers you'll find that the bolt and receiver match. In this case, they do. But your trigger guard, plate, and if the stock is marked, will not. This one has the CAI import mark here, and this is in a 7.5 French ammunition, 7.5 French caliber. Now, here you have for the stacking of rifles. You know, that's what this is used for. And these later ones, you can see that it is attached, basically pinned and welded. The others are actually screwed in, and this is all part of one piece. There are various changes between this and the earlier ones, the pre-war and the early war ones. Now, one thing that this does have that when you find a sporterized one doesn't is your bayonet. This goes down into the tube. You actually depress this button here, and as you see, when it's pressed, the other depresses as well. That unlatches it so you can take it out of the tube to affix the bayonet. And to fix the bayonet, it's just simply to turn it around and connect it in. So that is now a fixed bayonet. To put it back, you press this time on this catch, which is now exposed, turn it around, and it goes right back in. Now, what's nice is a lot of these Arsenal refinished ones you see, the bore is really nice on this. I mean, I can understand why some people bought these and decided to sporterize them, because if you're getting a really good condition bolt action and you don't like this military stock, well, it makes sense. Me, I prefer obviously the vintage military. This one has the ring for your sling, which goes through there and then through the butt. These are not too hard to take down. They're quite easy, just like most bolt-action rifles. Depress the trigger, bolt slides right out, and then you can, this looks like you have two buttons. In reality, there is only one. That comes out, follower, base plate. And you're ready to go to clean this. Doesn't take a lot. This is a 5-round box. Now, to put it back, simply drop that in. There's a little catch here. In like that. Press the button, that goes right back in. Bolt is just the opposite of removal. Line it up, pull the trigger, press the follower, and there you go. I am going to have to ask some questions about one particular thing I noticed here. Now, these do not have a safety. And the markings on the back here, the D and the M, are about to disassemble the bolt and to assemble the bolt. You know, that's what those markings are for. There's no safety on the back of this bolt. But I did notice, and by the way, this does cock when you bring the bolt up. So this is a cock on open. Now, I did notice there is an intermediate spot right here. Now, it's locked open, so this isn't going to go back unless you bring it all the way up. This spot right here is basically what I'm looking at, because this is closed and locked. That is not. And then you get this when you pull the trigger. So, while a lot of people say there is no safety, this is something I want to ask about, because to me, that intermediate spot there seems a lot like a safety. Because if you load around into the chamber and bring it down to that first notch, this will not open, and it will not fire until you depress the trigger. And in this position, I haven't tried it yet, when you pull that trigger, that would fire the round. So I'm going to ask, because that seems like a potential safety position. Now, the rear sight, this is really neat. These are spring-loaded in an upwards direction. Your markings are on the top for the range. And as you move forward, that spring-loaded rear sight comes up. Front sight on these is this hooded blade within there. But if you want a nice looking example and don't want to pay way up there to get a nice looking pre-war, early war example, these post-war re-arsenals are actually quite good. I mean, you get to handle the rifle in almost the condition that it probably would have been issued in originally. but without having to pay the money for something that you're going to, well, not really want to fire too much because you want to keep it in that nice, pristine kind of condition. Now, the 7.5 ammo that these use, the 7.5 French, it is still available by Privy Partisan. You can buy commercial ammo for this. And it is the correct ammo. It is not like, oh, you know, it says it's 7.5 French, but it's a modern load that's like it. No. It is the right one for this rifle. And it's about, at the time of filming, you know, anywhere between $25 to $30 a box of 20, which in reality really isn't that bad. But yeah, it's an interesting rifle. You know, when these were designed, of course, you had, you know, you're supposed to be able to use a stripper clip right here. So when you needed to load it, you bring it back, round, press down, and then, of course, we pre-war and the early war time productions, you wouldn't have needed to depress that follower to close the bolt if it was empty. But hey, you know, it was a neat piece. I figured it's just something I really need to add because I don't typically have French firearms. English, American, German, sure. French, not so much. Now this was a bolt action that when they designed this forward sweeping bolt was supposed to make it where the individual doing the shooting, that bolt was more forward to where, as you see, you're shooting it, bolt's right there. So they brought it forward for that, because if they hadn't, it would be back here. So it was brought forward intentionally based upon how the rifle is shot, to give this, you know, give the shooter's hand faster access to working the bolt. But obviously these were eventually replaced with semi-automatic, magazine fed, because technically, you know, the English were already using the Enfields. Bolt action, magazine fed, and the French were using these internal box ones. But when you look at the war, well, so were the Germans. The Mausers had an internal box. But yeah, fun guns. If you come across one, especially these re-arsenal ones, they're fun to pick up, and I'd always recommend having one. If you can afford or can find a really nice condition, non-re-arsenaled, for a reasonable price, obviously pick it up. But if you can't find anything reasonably priced, this is the next best option. So, anyway, there you go. Moss 1936. Fun rifle. And it's really nice to be able to find them in this re-arsenal condition still, long after they stopped doing that. So, anyway, I appreciate you watching.